And welcome to Talking Theology Thursdays, where this is apparently a very bored parody ripoff of J.D. Kane's Talking You Know What Tuesdays. Anyways, so today, get to talk to Richard Raspberry. This guy just went full King James Onlyism on me, going from everything from saying those corrupted ancient texts to saying you can't trust Codex Sinaiticus just because it has sin spelled in it. Really, seriously, what's up with this guy? And as well as apparently two of my former debate opponents have gone to wanting a rematch on certain things. So I will be debating G-Man on the topic of is the King James Bible the best translation, and Surreal on Sola Scriptura. But enough of that for now. We might talk more on that later, as well as random things. But first, let's introduce the panel and the guest. First, we're going to introduce the silent elephant in the room. Rather, the silent kitty. He is a zombie who is a Neko. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Neko zombie. For right now, mic cannot be turned on for various reasons, so I'll try to relay anything he says that he puts in the side chat. And we also have everyone's favorite anti-theist furry with the red and black look. Also very good for the September look, which is going to be coming up soon. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Alexia!
Rawr.
With the rawr. Alright, so next we have, well, an interesting fellow. He's accompanied by many, many different individuals, as well as right now we're looking at the keyboard that belongs to this person. He is the master and owner of several different people, including the Drama Llama and Skeptic Squirrel, and I forget what that thing was that was just displayed. But ladies and gentlemen, Shadow Heathen.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was yep. The what?
Ah, there we go. There's the mic.
Ah, there's the mic. And whoa, wait, who's this? Oh, we got a noob. We got a noob in the room. Let's address the noob real quick. Okay, this is an individual. Dang it, Wolf! Lost my train of thought. We have Reese in the room. Basically, it's from what I've been informed, is a character from a video game called Borderlands. Tales of Borderlands, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, welcome to the room, Reese.
Pew pew.
Pew pew. Okay.
I will finger gun you all. No, it won't actually.
So yes, I'm just in here. I got like about, what, 2 hours or so before I got to go to some nice church event thing to visit an old friend in some sort, so I figured I might as well kill some time while I'm on here and talk theology instead of talking you know what, as well as addressing some of the stuff that I ended up having to deal with when I woke up this morning. So, how is everybody doing?
I'm pretty great.
That's good. Shadow?
I don't think there's anyone in the room named everybody, but okay.
Shadow, how are you doing?
Pretty good actually. I'm trying to take a break from the writing before I have to like beat my head with a hammer or something.
You working on another episode, I assume?
No, I'm have to get off my butt and finish the last chapter of book 2.
Book 2?
Yeah, book 1's still at the editor.
Wait, what's book 1? What is this? Just now hearing for the first time. You've been writing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Sci-fi. None of this stupid great debate garbage.
Well, good. At least there are people that can do other things besides just focus on the great debate. And Alexia, how have you been doing, you crazy psychopath?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. Alright, and apparently Neko has made the obvious observation. It seems lately I've been able to attract the furries. Well, I guess that's
Yes, I am a furry as well.
Fur pride.
Woo!
Speaking of which, I don't know, is it okay if I end up showing the drawing that you did earlier last time, Reese?
Oh yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, because this is an interesting artwork that I've seen. It's the if I can click on the thing, there you go. It was
Which one is it?
It's the one I saw of like you're the tiny one in the middle.
All right, so that's Reese, Jack, and Tim, and they're kind of weird, honestly.
Are these all borderline characters, or
They're the furry versions of them.
right?
Yes.
So this is it. I almost thought this was like it was like a furry
Aw.
family that you met online, and this is like you trying to give them a gift, like a family portrait of some sort.
Sort of. My best friend, August Valentine.
Yeah.
The two that aren't Reese are her characters.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, it's sort of a gift. She was upset, so I wanted to draw her something.
Right. Alright. And just for some of the people that are in this room right now, note that we have 3 viewers, and who knows, we might be getting the few of the Christians coming in here. Because so far we've had only 3 of the atheists, me being the weird type, and then we have Neko, who is religious himself, I believe, but at the same time I think he's silent right now, so he won't be able to contribute much unless he just puts things in the side chat for some of y'all fabulous people to read. Oh, he's a Mennonite.
Oh, cool.
What's a Mennonite now? I'm trying to remember that. Gotta look up Google, apparently. Google, you help us all in the best of situations. Okay, Christian groups belong to the church communities of Anabaptists. Okay, you're basically me with an Anna.
It's Amish with tech.
It's a what?
It's Amish with tech, or Amish with tech if you prefer.
So Amish people with technology?
Yeah, take an Amish person, give them a smartphone. You have a Mennonite.
It's about time you people got an upgrade. All right. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, don't make fun of Amish people. They have nice vegetables.
I know. I like the Amish thing personally. Like I can appreciate the way that they are able to live in the culture that they are. And an interesting thing I read one time. I forget where this was. I know I was in college when I was studying for this. I think it was in my what was it? It wasn't psychology. I think it was sociology or something like that. It was something about this incident that happened in a Amish society where apparently this crazy guy just comes in with nails or something, nails the door so no one can get in or something, and then ends up shooting some kind of school or something like that.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and the crazy part is that after the funeral was over for them, because apparently after he killed him, he took his own life too, the killer. Apparently the family of the killer was visited by the families of the people that lost their children, and they just were like giving them food and gifts, and was hoping the best for their life, even though the killer belonged to that family. And where I grow up, when that sort of incident happens, there is like literally almost no forgiveness for that person until like the family's considered almost like they have the plague or something. Like everyone just stays away from them. This was an interesting take that I don't think I think it's rare for people to come at it from that perspective. Just a interesting story I thought I'd share.
Yeah,
Wait,
sounds pretty neat.
I think that our friend here found it. Yes, it was called the West Nickel Mines school shooting. Happened in 2006 in Bart Township, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
That'd be about the right area for it. Or one of.
Most school shootings seem to happen like up in the New England area. Like I've noticed that.
Well, Penn's a little far down for New England, but still.
It's still in that general like weird.
Northeast is a little bit,
America.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't really know what else to call it. I'm not even from America, so whatever.
Yeah.
Wait, so he wasn't a Muslim, so we can actually blame guns this time?
Yeah, he was not a wasn't a Muslim. He was an Amish person who had nothing but apparently nails and a gun.
Actually, in this particular case, we can't even blame things like music or video games.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. It's ridiculous. Crazy.
This might be a case where we actually have to blame the shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wouldn't that usually always be the case?
I blame
Yeah.
Weirdly, not in our culture.
Yeah. Pretty much. Race, like where do you, what culture are you a part of?
Oh, I'm German, so
Mm.
I'm not really heavy on religion or anything. I just kind of.
I find that
think of
interesting
everything
because you say that you're German, but I honestly can't tell with the accent, in my opinion. Like,
It's it's not really noticeable. I hide it on purpose.
that's awesome. That's like you get to surprise people with that.
Well, see,
Well,
hey, I'm technically half German and half French. I'm half
Well,
I'm
I'm
going to
ha-
take over the
well, I'm
world
half
and half
German.
I give up.
Well, I'm half German too, so.
Yeah, but in terms of people saying that they actually live in Germany, there's always an easy way to
Oh no,
check.
no, I don't.
Just
I
ask
don't
them if there's a
live.
plaque in front of the house.
I don't live
But-
in Germany, but I was born there, so.
But no, I'm half German and half French. I'm going to take over the world and half I give up.
Oh, well, that's a good place to be because taking over the world probably isn't a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder I'm so confused about things in my life.
Well, I suppose it depends whether you're, I give up, I'm going to take over the world, or if you're, I'm going to take over yeah, I give up.
I almost thought you was about to do. Oh, great! Forget what his name is. Your religious fox character. I almost heard a hint of that just now.
There's a little Fundy Fox now and then, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have
Fundy
the right
Fox.
camera set up for the puppets, though.
Mm.
Wait, is
Yeah.
that a toenail clipper by your keyboard?
Yeah.
Why?
Because in these kind of discussions, Occam's razor is not quite required.
There you go. Occam's razor.
Oh yes, just toenail.
Yeah, all y'all get
Toenail
is
clippers.
Occam's toenail clipper.
Okay, see, you have some freaky friends.
And you're including yourself in that group, it seems, when you say I have freaky friends.
No, I'm completely normal. It's everyone else that's weird.
Yep, I
You're
admit
telling
I'm
yourself
weird.
that.
I'm pretty odd.
Mm-hmm. And then we got Mark Anthony in here.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm here.
I just got
Oh,
hit
boy.
with embarrassment.
I don't think I like Mark Anthony. I don't know why.
Yeah, me
Uh-oh.
neither. I don't like him either.
I could give you a few reasons.
Uh-oh. Get this
I'm
started.
I mean, I like CA because his avatar looks like a girl, but
I've been told I've been looked like a lesbian before. So,
I'm a lesbian.
well, okay then. Hold on. Okay,
I don't see a resemblance with between the two, so
just so we can already go ahead and that way, all for His glory alone, can get off my back on this. Reese, what do you think of my avatar?
It's alright.
It's all right. There you go.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's alright.
Okay,
I don't draw anime or anything like that, so I can't really.
it looks like one of those weird little anime effeminate characters that my daughter would call cute, so that's fine.
Speaking of that, apparently one of my new videos came out. Apparently, kept getting the results and comments of cute, and apparently Beckel gets to make a guest voice appearance on there
I mean,
My-
it's pretty adorable, honestly.
because I'm adorable. I'm so
You
adorable.
are.
here's the bad
I
thing.
mean, look at mine. Mine is probably the least adorable of them
You have a
all.
hole in your head. You should get that checked out.
It's not a hole. It's a port.
Ah.
Okay. It can't
See,
be a hole, but you know.
It's a jack.
Sorry.
Okay.
CA knows that I'm trans,
Uh-huh.
and my hair was down to basically my shoulders or below, and I bleached it silver, and it killed my hair. And it made it to the point where it literally was impossible to do anything with it without looking like the Doctor from Back to the Future. And so
You should get your eyes real wide. And
I
just go
cut
like,
my hair.
We need to go back to the future.
My hair is like really, really short now. Like it's a boy's cut.
Mhm.
I mean, it's maybe like half an inch long. And I came home, and the first thing my roommate said to me is, "You look like a butch lesbian."
And that's exactly what I was called. So now
Can't
you
be a
know how I
lesbian.
feel. And of course, it's our favorite Seventh-day Adventist. It is Justin Wilson. Justin, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
All right.
So they have an ist for like everything, huh?
Well, only for depending on who starts up the idea, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about an ist, but certainly an ism.
Mm-hmm.
There, you see,
Like the
CCA?
title of this is like a King James Onlyist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people that basically believe the King James Bible is the perfect inerrant word, and there's no absolute errors that can come in that. And every Bible from even the past till modern, besides King James, is corrupt and unreliable. You can't trust it. Only trust the King James because for some odd reason, God decided to preserve it in the Middle Age English.
I actually kind of respect that. I kind of respect that more than the cherry pickist. You know, I'll create a list.
No. King James Onlyist is ignoring things like Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Vaticanus, all of the earlier texts. It's just like, let's
Yeah.
take this late one that was fucked over by this king and choose
Yeah.
that. Oh, do I need to watch my language?
So now
Wait,
that's cool. That's cool. So it basically is cherry picking evidence of the text. For example, like you mentioned, Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Vaticanus. These are two of our complete manuscripts that date back to 4th century, and these are very wonderful texts that we are privileged to have. They're basically part of a thing called the Septuagint, which is not only a New Testament that's complete in an old age, but also the Old Testament that's in Greek. And we are lucky to have that, but for some odd reason, you have people that say that it's part of either A, a corrupt cult-made text that people were trying to do to pervert things, or B, like
Even, hang on, but you should note, a corrupt text that was written 900 years prior to King James, roughly.
uh-huh.
by the way, Shadow, I'm stealing your avatar picture.
No, feel free.
I love wolves.
It just isn't a wolf, it's a squirrel.
But
It's a wolf.
still,
It's a wolfy squirrel.
Hang on, let me get out the actual fuzzy version of it.
Oh god.
Give me 1 second. There we go.
Wait, hold on. Were you about to say something, Reese?
no, that was. I
No,
think
I
you were
said-
talking about me. No, I was going to say still, even though there's different. Basically, what I'm saying is at least they have a code that they stick by and they don't waver from it. You know, so.
Well, the problem is that history would disagree with them concerning their claims. Like, they make very inconsistent arguments. Like, here's the one argument I've heard. This was some guy, Chaplain Bob Walker, and he said, here's why you can't trust Sinaiticus and Vaticanus. Because Sinaiticus has the letters S-I-N in it, and Vaticanus has A-N-U-S in it. That is literally the legit argument someone says to say that it's demonic and cultic.
Now, the kicker of this all is that when you're actually looking at these older translations, you can't even say that the King James used these earlier texts necessarily because it was actually, if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong with this, it was a kind of mediocre copy or translation, I should say, of Vaticanus that I think they actually used to derive the King James.
The King James is a revisionist Bible.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Here's what the translation method was for the King James. They used two Masoretic text sources. I think Polyglot and then something else. And then the New Testament was done by the Textus Receptus, which is, and here's the part that I will always get them at, is it was made by a Roman Catholic humanist priest by the name of Erasmus, and these are the same people that are King James Onlyists. They'll say Roman Catholicism is terrible. You can't trust anything that comes from it. Yet, let's say that the perfect Bible was used with a Roman Catholic writing, which, once again, shows the inconsistency in their argumentation when they're going to use the same type of argument against the older manuscripts, yet they'll use something from a Roman Catholic doctrine that they despise, the religion of.
I want to know, why is this such a big deal? Like, if they believe King James is the only Bible or translation they should go by,
Well, they believe it's the perfect word, and they believe if you read any other Bible, then you're a heretic and you're reading a satanic Bible if you believe it's the Word of God.
Because Christians make rivers out of puddles. I mean, just look at, like, for example, gays in the Old Testament. But you'll never hear a Christian complain that mixed fabric should be worn or Red Lobster should go out of business. They
well, I
make
do.
deals out of stupid little things.
I mean, I believe Red Lobster should go out of business.
There's another factor too, though, and that factor is that most actual literary scholars of the Bible, in terms of people that know the linguistics and what have you, will acknowledge that the King James is actually one of the most inferior translations that we've come up with so far.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, CA.
Yeah.
Like someone said, what I don't like is a system of cherry picking, which like everything is, we have just a convenient religion. So whenever we want to transform it, we just shift one translation to another and say, well, this one's inferior, and then we're just all cherry picking. We have a cherry picking war.
Exactly. And to piggyback on that point, what about the fact that the Bible itself says that it's the perfect Word of God? Nobody wants to dispute that, and it's like, okay, so I'm reading this thing that says that it's the perfect Word of God, and not only that, I believe it, and on top of that, I have been raised to have faith in it, and have faith in this God who is delivering me a message, and he will know how to get the perfect message to me, and this perfect message has came to me in the King James Bible. So why would in any other evidence, or because we all know, faith trumps evidence.
I think I'm gonna have to tap Christian on this one, because I don't think it technically says it's the perfect Word of God in the Bible itself.
That's what I was about to ask. Which passage are you talking about? Because I've heard this one before.
By the way, CA. Interesting note. Believe it or not, I actually got an email from the Westminster College in England, who, by the way, is a Christian college, offering me $16,000 a year, the equivalent to pounds, etc., to attend there. And I'm like, do you even know me?
Who knows? Maybe God spoke to them and said, "Hey, they need to convert you as soon as possible."
Or maybe it's a scam.
Or it's a scam.
No, it's not a scam. I've had offers from Harvard. I've had offers from MIT Tech. I mean, I've had offers from a lot of colleges.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
I'm in honors. I'm in an honors program, honors society, everything in college. So.
All right, so as I was saying, so Mark, what passage were you reading where it says that it is perfect? Because I think I know where you're gonna go to, but I just want to also see if that's the case, help you understand something about it.
Well, I don't know the particular passage. I don't study the Bible.
Okay, well let me say this. Does this sound familiar, or what you might have been going for? All Scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. Is that the one?
No, I think Proverbs 30, verse 5 is a better, goes more direct one. That one is talking about inspiration, which is still indicative. Implicative sounds like a good word.
We're trying to play a word game here. How fast can you say indicative?
Ooh, did someone say dick?
Alexia?
No, not exactly.
Alexia?
Okay. Yeah, in Proverbs 30, verse 5, it says, in the New International says, every word of God is flawless. He is a shield to those who take refuge. King James is, every word of God is pure.
Mm-hmm.
He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. So, there's this teaching of, the fact that the Bible is clear, and not only clear but flawless.
Well, that's talking about the Word of God itself, not necessarily the book that was written by man tried to reflect the Word of God. There is a distinction there.
No, that's a shift of the goalpost. Can I please interject there? Me and Christian Anarchist talked about that a lot, and what he did was the fallacy of downplaying God's powers whenever it was beneficial, whenever he got trapped. Okay, listen. If God wants to send a message, he can send it perfectly, period. And then and this is a Christian, right? And he's trying to tell me that God couldn't send, not that he couldn't, because once I trapped him on that, he tried to say, well, he could have sent his message perfectly, but he rather had got it wrong. So the whole fact that it's like, oh well, this Bible was just inspired by him, but it was still left to the fallible human beings. It's like, no, a perfect God can send a perfect message to a fallible human being so they can know it for 100% absolute certainty, and he also wouldn't leave it up to translation. He could get that message out there perfectly if he wanted to, and the only way you can deny that is to either say he doesn't have the power to, or he chose not to, which is both stupid.
Okay, so Mark, then you started going about these straw man accusations you just stated about me, saying things I never actually said, first off, and that's the one thing I don't like. So secondly, what I want to ask is concerning the doctrine of inspiration, do you even know what that is? Have you studied that? Okay, see, and once again, since you brought that up, let me just mention this. I have asked you about, because when we were talking about the idea of Genesis, where it talks about Adam dying, God said, on the day you eat of the fruit, you shall surely die. Though he didn't physically die, he spiritually died. That's the thing I told you, and you said that that's just a thing that people want to rearrange to try to, not make God seem as a liar, though he did. The point is that I mentioned that the Hebrew would disagree with you, but you said that Hebrew doesn't matter. We just need to focus on what does the English say, which is a translation compared to what the original was, and how originally the people it was originally intended to be for was meant to relay.
Well, can I add something to that? Because what you just said, like if someone says no, we need to stick to the English or focus on that, then you would say no, the Hebrew is the original. So then let's say we go to the Hebrew where it says originally, 6 days God created the earth. Then you would say no, it didn't really mean that. Then you have like the secret translation where, like in the Hebrew, it didn't really mean 6 days. It's something else. Like God could not say what he meant, and that's what I'm talking about. Like no matter how clear or how just how explicit the text can be, it still will be whatever you want it to sound like.
Well, I have already addressed this part in an essay that I wrote on my website. First off, before I continue, Reese, are you doing okay? I noticed your mic was
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if I'm boring you a bit over here. But I did a essay on this as well and looked into it. And concerning this word, yom, which is the word used for day, I'm sure you're familiar with it as several different meanings based on how it has been used in the language as a whole, right?
If I remember correctly, it can be seen as either being day or age or period.
Yeah, and in fact, that's also how the early church has viewed it. You look into some of the writings of like Clement of Alexandria, and you'll find them saying that when they viewed these days, these are bishops, these are people that preach in a church. They'll say that these days mean 1,000 years because, what did Peter say? A day unto the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day, which they say it's not about what we as man view the day as. What does God view it as? Because it was him creating, not us.
Okay, but it's first of all, it's easy for Peter to clean that up in hindsight. I mean, it's easy to go back and see something that's stupid in the Bible and then write a revision after it a couple hundred years. And on top of that, I could play your game and say, oh, that was just a metaphor. Because as we know, anything that doesn't make sense, we can just chalk it up as a metaphor when Peter said that. So,
Well, how about we go to Ecclesiastes, though, where they say that we cannot understand basically time as the Lord does. We can't understand his age or how he sees time.
exactly.
Real quick
Answer
question.
answer a mystery with another mystery. Ooh, we've gotten very far then.
Okay, two things. One, Rise, I asked you a question in chat if you want to read that real quick. Two, how do you know God's a him?
I absolutely, yeah, I hate that. I really hate that. And they're not consistent with it. But I do think he acts like a man. I do think he acts
I
like a
agree, he
man.
does stupid things.
Yeah, and he's like sexist and power hungry and all the manly tropes. But yeah, they say that it's a spirit, but they call it a he. But when he came to Earth, he came as a man. I would assume he had a penis when he took his human form, I would assume. So I think that's why. But they claim that it's a spirit, but they're kind of inconsistent on that.
So here's a real good question. Is God a virgin?
Uh, you can't. I'm an atheist, but you can ask them.
Christian anarchist or any theist, is God a virgin?
Is God a virgin? No, not in any sense that you
So he's
can.
had sex.
Well, when you say virgin, do you mean like someone
Somebody
who
who's
has?
had sex.
Well, in a sense, but not in the sense of we can actually understand it. Like if God is creating people and actually lists like literally inside of every single person, then in
He's a
that
whore.
say it again.
Then he's a whore.
No, not necessarily. Like you won't call water a whore because it's
No,
inside
but
of
I
you.
mean, if a woman is, has a bunch of boyfriends,
irrelevant at all.
Yeah,
Can
I
I,
mean,
Justin? Can I kind of jump in here a little bit? I feel a little odd being an atheist, taking your side to some degree, but
We're
I think
slowly converting you.
I think where he's potentially going with this is that
she.
although the God character wouldn't have necessarily had sex, if he understands and is part to some degree of all of our experiences by proxy in a way he would have. Is that kind of where you're going?
yeah, by proxy, and then also the fact of who he is, the fact that he created us with the
Well,
understanding and the program of sex, he himself can experience those things, not necessarily with
I'm,
us, but
I'm
with
going.
himself.
I'm going with the general definition. Has God ever had sex?
No.
No, not with a person.
Okay,
Not
I
with,
feel a lot better being a 29-year-old virgin. Shit.
well, see, and it's very confusing because you want him to be like just like you, like if God was
But
like,
you want him to be a him.
well, no, I think God is in everything. He doesn't. There's like a
So
zillion genders that
is is
he can multiply.
okay, people. We have just had Justin admit there's more than two genders.
No, well, within
There's only two genders, honey.
no within the, but see, that's the thing. You're trying to you're looking at God with the telescope or the eyes of Earth. God can literally go to another planet and split genders into 20, into 15 billion. I mean, it being two was just something he wanted.
But
So
you
for
see,
us to just that's immature to think that it has to be like
Is
us on
God
Earth.
is God a
wait,
furry?
No.
Say again?
wait.
Is God a furry?
No.
Who would drink
I'm
his
not
first
sure
soda if
about
he
these other
was?
theologically relevant questions because they don't tell us how we should act as Christians or even theists.
I think Justin's answer proves my point that you see how Justin just said like the word a zillion possibilities and how he could be on another planet, pretty much endless possibilities of power, which by definition I kind of agree with the notion of this character of God, completely all powerful, able to do anything without fail if she wants to. All right, so then when we get to this whole point of, oh, well, he originally inspired the message. He didn't want the message to be perfect. He just wanted it to be written in one language that only one group of people could understand, then translated 50 times, then rewritten, then revised, then cherry picked. Like that whole notion makes literally zero sense,
All right.
which is why I would at least respect somebody who just picks one and just says, "This is the one I'm going to believe." And makes up whatever random reason for it. But
All right, so Mark,
yeah,
based on the idea of why God is identified as a male, here's based on what I've looked at. First off, and I told you this also with how the culture was at the time. First off, they viewed men as an authority figure, so of course they're going to put God as the figurative deal in there. That's just the whole culture of it.
But,
I mean, that's
but
what
is God a male? Is
But-
he a male?
Well,
he's a spirit. He
hang
is
on,
neither
hang
male
on.
nor female. That's a ridiculous
From-
question.
when I
I've got to
God-
jump in with a quick literary point of view. If you're actually writing something and you keep using the term it gets really bogged down. You have to kind of pick one or the other and then stay consistent with it.
Mm-hmm.
no, you could just say it.
No, it really bogs it down because it makes it a lot harder to understand because you'll be referring to it pertaining to things other than the divine entity you're talking about. And with the it, as it keeps going, it gets harder and harder to tell what your subject matter is.
You just capitalize.
English literature.
You just
Yeah.
capitalize.
Exactly, and you could use the word God as well. So that's pretty much. That's not,
Capitalizing? No, dude. Old Testament, every letter is capitalized, man. There are no lowercase letters.
Well, I mean, people understand context, though. I mean, it's not that deep. Like, if you're speaking about it opened the Red Sea, and it, spoke to us, you know who he's talking about.
Hold on, I'm going to pull out my Mormon Bible that I got for free. It's great for rolling paper, by the way.
But the thing is, in Hebrew, it's all capital letters, much like in Koine Greek, actually.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see.
You don't really have the uppercase, lowercase thing there. It's just there.
But I mean, people understand. Like, it's context that. Well, the context of at least your contextual.
But what I'm saying is, if you use it, the context gets muddy really quick.
Exactly.
No, like we're talking and we know how to. If you're like texting someone and you're putting all these abbreviations, people know where to emphasize certain cues and ideas, and because it's commonly used in that way. So it's the same thing with other languages that, like in Japanese and all these hieroglyphic wordings and so on. We have an understanding. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to have the same rules that we have to actually know what a person is talking about.
But here's the thing, though. When you're using something like it's, you could be talking about a person, place, or thing at that point, which makes it a lot harder to understand what you're actually talking about at any given time. This is why when you're writing something, you'll put, your name in for your character sometimes, and sometimes it'll be he, or sometimes it'll be she, or what have you. But when you start introducing things like it makes it a lot harder to understand what it is that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, it may be a little harder, but I mean, you still can have some suggestive language towards it. So, I mean, you may
But
be,
it just makes it harder to understand as a reader, is what I'm indicating.
yeah, maybe an English reader, but I can get used to it. I mean, it's not a big deal for me. It's just that saying he, you can still confuse a person and make the person to think, oh, he's talking about a common person, common man. Just like how this discussion is kind of getting into that, like, oh, why he has to be a he and not a she. He can be all of that combined. Like, if we discover another gender, God, like, the essence of God would actually be the umbrella of all the genders that can possibly exist. So I don't find quarrel between calling him he or she, only when it's associated to cultic religions that have a whole different baggage combined to that. That's the only issue with me.
Yeah, but using something like it does actually reduce the precision of the actual writing. So I understand the point of adopting one or the other.
Yeah, but I think the principle why God chose to call himself he rather than saying it or whatever was because of the fact of when he made man was the first, I guess, the leader, and then the woman would be, I guess, the copy of man. So the man called woman because he came out of man. So the woman would represent the second or the helper. The man
Don't
would
we come out? Don't you guys come out of us though?
well, yeah, I mean,
It's kind of odd.
but yeah, that's the egg coming out from the chicken, and now the chicken coming out from the egg that came out from the chicken. So since Eve came out of man, and then man comes out of Eve, we still, by chronological order, consider the man first. And
We may need to redirect on this one before somebody starts playing the Benny Hill theme song.
I won't do it for
Okay.
copyright reasons.
All right, so I might as well take another direction on this. We'll go past the King James Onlyist thing, but seriously, Richard Raspberry, if you're watching this, just seriously, man, the arguments you provided when we last talked was just incredibly insane, and it sounds more just like more conspiracy theorist talk with absolutely poor education scholarship behind your said arguments.
Was Raspberry one of the idiots that jumped on the flat Earth bandwagon or not?
He hasn't
But
yet.
was he
Okay.
smoking his pipe? Was he smoking his pipe when he made these wonderful arguments? Because that adds a lot of gravitas
his
to
recent
everything he says.
His recent video, apparently he said he found an atheist pet shop where apparently he found a big dog bone that's labeled as a real dinosaur bone or something like that. It's like atheists will believe it if you just label it.
Wait, did I just hear
Atheist
my name or
dog
something?
shop.
Wait, what?
Atheist pet shop.
I'm confused.
We're going about this guy who goes by the name of Richard Raspberry, who apparently said he found an atheist pet shop where he says that he found this little gag toy for dogs. It's a giant bone, and they call it a T-Rex bone, and they'll put like little gag things saying 100% legit and all that stuff. It's just for advertising purposes, of course. But he says this is on here, and atheists believe it, and that's why they'll buy it, because they can put it on their shelves and say, "Look, we found real dinosaur fossils."
That's hilarious.
I find it.
At a pet shop.
I'm glad that this is. I'm glad you guys are noticing Richard Raspberry's the quality of his arguments in general, because it's consistent with the ones that I've seen over the years.
I like
sorry,
how
that's
Alexander
just
laughs, because
stupid.
for me, with the whole idea of Grell being there, just made it even more hilarious. But
I
speaking
know,
of which,
right?
how the heck are you, Lundy?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, RCA?
I am doing pretty well. We've got, let's see, we've got a lot of atheists, we got a couple of Christians, we got a Muslim in here as well. I think we've got a pretty good bandwagon of people on here for the next circus we're going on.
You know what, if you guys are outnumbered, I think if you have one Muslim, I'm going to go ahead and convert to Islam real quick. Just to
I'm not
keep things
exactly an
more even.
atheist either. I don't know what the heck I am, but I'm going by Taoist these days because I'm so grossed out by some of the arguments I've heard.
Correction,
fine.
we have a Taoist also.
You have officially converted me, Christian anarchist. I accept the Lord Jesus Christ as my savior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm just going to go with the way.
Yeah.
Can I
That
just
for the win.
throw glitter at people?
Well, as long as it's red and not rainbow, because red's more my shade of color. At least just throw red on me, because red's more
I'm
my.
just going to say no, because glitter is herpes of the craft community.
Well, yes, being an artist, I'm well aware of that, and that's why I hate it with a burning passion.
And as Neko said, better dead than red. I don't know if that was a communist
Also-
joke.
I'm not entirely
Yeah.
certain if that's the case, because maybe if you're red, that means you're just in like perpetual pain forever because you just bleed so much.
I have a
Wait, hold on,
theological question.
Well, before you do that, Reese was trying to say something. Reese, what's up?
Oh, also, I'm sorry, I'm being quiet. My dog had an accident, so I'm trying to clean that up, and I don't want to.
Oh, what the? Oh, hold on a second. Be right back.
By
carry
the
on.
way, Reese, you never answered me. What kind of furry are you?
Oh, my persona is a raccoon.
Oh,
Sorry, I can't switch to the chat.
I bet you can't guess mine.
A wolf.
Oh, you guessed it.
I'm really good at this.
A punk sort of 80s punk wolf.
The Avatar.
Man, I was going to guess Aardvark. Damn it.
The Avatar definitely does not give it away.
Not a squirrel.
Here, I'm gonna show y'all something. Let me know what you think. Hold on.
No, the Skulf is unique.
All right, let me see here. What do you think of this?
That's a very well done tattoo.
I'm going to say something obnoxious. Actually, I really don't like it.
Whatever. I don't like you. I like the fox though.
No, my ex-wife had one
I
just
missed
like it.
What'd you say? I missed it. Where? Show it again.
Ugh.
You don't like that tattoo for the same reason my brother hates Nickelback.
Oh, gotcha. I see.
Yeah, pretty much. My My ex-wife has a tattoo just like it.
Oh, I
So
also have this
I
one.
have a major bias.
It's a spirit wolf.
Was that done at the same guy?
Yeah. And then I have one last one which I don't show off. Pull up my pants so I don't show off my ass crack.
Stripping on the Hangouts.
Yeah, you really like wolves.
I do.
Apparently. Nothing wrong with liking wolves.
If there was any kind of religion I would ever believe in, it would be the one where you're reincarnated as possibly an animal or another human.
There's a multiple ones of reincarnation. No, I don't think in any of them you get to choose afterwards.
By the way, that back one I don't ever show off, so feel lucky
They would
that you
spin
have
the
to see it.
roulette wheel or something like with your luck you might end up like as a deer and you just get eaten by a wolf.
Yeah, I don't show off mine either, so.
Oh my gosh, Alexia, I have that same cup.
Oh, I just came up with a good question.
I doubt it,
Yes,
but
the
go
Darth
ahead.
Vader one.
Yes,
Oh, no.
I got
Oh, wait, is he hidden?
It's very good. It's couldn't God have came up with a version of the Bible for every possible language that would ever exist for entire human existence? And oh yeah, because God is not all powerful. But that's what they're going to say. But in reality,
I'm gonna put my Christian cap on here for a second. I think I can actually answer that fairly well. The reason
you're going to say no.
No, the reason why you don't have a Bible that can appeal to all languages and everybody can understand flawlessly is because the Bible wasn't written by God. It was written by people who were inspired by God, not necessarily directly. A lot of them were just thinking of God and wrote the Bible. Very similar.
Well, yeah, you're still making my point. So that's not even a counter argument. My counterpoint is couldn't God? So let's change this. Couldn't God inspire people to actually be correct? Now, wait. Let me finish here.
No, you didn't let me finish.
I know. Wait. Let me finish the question. Just let me finish the question.
I didn't let you finish, but you let me finish. Okay, whatever.
Okay. Well, anyway.
I need to
just because God is all powerful. So His inspiration can be perfect if He wants. I mean, of course, if you say no, then you already forfeit. But
you're not getting what I'm saying. You're not getting what I'm saying when I say inspiration.
No, what I'm saying is, can He perfectly inspire people to write an accurate Bible? So
yes,
if you say no,
I can say yes and that He did.
Okay, real quick.
No. If He can,
you have to use the fox.
Okay, if He can inspire, if you say that He already did, I'm saying could He inspire one perfect for every language?
He did.
Okay.
Now let me explain this.
No, wait.
No, you fucking listen for a minute, dude.
You
Chill
use
the hell out.
Show me the perfect every language.
Okay,
Show me one in every language.
Will you shut up a minute? Now, the two languages that is predominantly written in is Hebrew, more so the Aramaic, as well as Koine Greek. Now, there's one thing that's unique about these two languages that they actually have in common. Now, in terms of the Hebrew, it doesn't actually have any vowels, so there's a great amount of individual interpretation that's required. A very similar thing can be said about the Koine Greek in the fact that there's no spaces between words, etc. Now, if you go to, I believe it's Galatians, it actually talks about if even an angel in heaven brings you a translation other than that which other than what we have spoken to you. But if you look at the original Greek of this, what it could very well be indicating is that you must accept the scripture as you understand it, as it speaks to you. Now, in the writing of both of these languages, it could be said that due to the way that it's written and through the interpretation, it's very easy for one person to allow this text, and therefore God, to speak to them individually into their heart in such a way that it resonates with them individually. Therefore, it's not one God for the entire universe, one God for, one message for all man, but one message for each of us individually, which would actually, to some, make it superior.
Okay, so you literally did all that to not answer my question at all.
Yes,
I didn't ask.
Wait a minute. That answered the question really nicely, actually, and it resonates more with my reading of the text than I've heard.
Can I respond to him?
Well,
for your
hold on,
response.
because that actually did answer your question, but let me explain why it just causes another question to come up, which is that, for instance, maybe...
Nobody answered my question.
Well, it did
Okay,
answer your question.
hold on, Mark. If you're just gonna keep being like this, I'm gonna have no choice but to kick you out when you're just not even letting the conversation to progress.
I just want to say something.
Go
Shadow,
ahead.
you gotta use the fox, dude.
No,
so
because
much-
he's going to
so
talk
much
about.
That wasn't at all Fundy Fox's style.
No, not at
That
all.
was
He's a
not at all.
He's a lot more literal and a lot more ridiculous than that.
Talking about leading the conversation on. Anyway, but
Well,
I think Mark was going somewhere with this.
I know. I just want to be able to clarify because I'm not that guy that's trying to cut everybody off in the hangout or nothing like that. But when you both started talking, you literally didn't address what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, and I know why, because the answer is no. But let's be real here. Let's not pretend that I'm doing some type of trick. I'm saying we have Italian. We have English, we have Hebrew, we have Roman. There is no, well, it could be said, well, some could think, or maybe it's translated. No, I'm saying, could God had made a version of the Bible, a perfect one that was correct in every single language, the ones that we have. I'm not just talking about Roman. Every single language. Therefore, there would be no distinction. I mean, no doubt in what it actually means, and nothing will get lost in translation. So when you say he did, and I ask you, okay, so provide me the Italian version, provide me the Chinese version, and you say, oh no, it's the Roman. I'm not talking about that. So you're literally not answering my question. Just say no,
Okay,
or say
I have an
he
alternate
wouldn't.
answer. I have an
Okay.
alternate answer. Are you noticing that it's not even the Christians who are answering you?
I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm actually attempting to explain that your question has been answered, but here's the problem: is that it does raise another question that causes a problem with the answer that was given. So I'm trying to sort of move the conversation forward as opposed to just asking the same question over.
Okay,
and
so
over.
when
There's an
has
actual problem with that. You're just missing what it is.
I don't
no,
see the question answered. Actually, I didn't hear the answer.
I didn't see the question answered anyway. Can someone please provide me the answer?
I'll give you another one.
He provided.
I'm waiting for anyone. So, and again, don't think that I'm trolling. I'm asking.
I don't want to step on any of the Christians' toes. Why don't you guys give it a
What I
whirl?
heard from the
This
answer,
isn't my book.
as a Christian, what I heard from the answers were there were only two languages that he assumes, that he believes, for those various reasons, that can be considered the best and pure languages, rather than explaining, okay, Spanish and Hebrew. This is the Spanish version of the King James version is the best translation, or this or that. And I think it's hard for anyone to do that unless you know all the languages.
No, that's not actually what he was
More so,
indicating.
if I may, right quick. More so, what I'm indicating is of all the languages that we know of that we've had so far, in terms of languages that could actually speak to everyone individually, thus allowing this theoretical divine to speak to all of us. Those actually, from all the time periods, are the two that could really pull this off. Would be the Koine Greek as well as the ancient Aramaic.
But those aren't.
Okay, but do you realize that I didn't ask you? I never asked what are the two best languages. I never asked, are there any general languages that could probably apply to everybody? I never
those
asked
were the
that.
two original languages.
I know, I
That's
understand
what they're
that.
saying.
But,
Everything.
okay. I understand that. I'm just saying people weren't replying to me. You can say all of that, but don't pretend that that's a reply to me. My question was simply about the languages that we have now, and all of them. And I was not saying, is there a general language that God might have spoken?
Okay.
So
In
you're
theory,
literally not replying to
he
me.
probably could have in theory if this was the
Exactly.
God or
Okay.
if this was a God.
I
I don't know,
agree.
but
I
I have
agree with you.
I have an alternate answer again for you if you like.
Go ahead.
Even if that were to occur, I don't see how, as humans who were inspired or who. Are you familiar with the process of interpretation? Not of interpretation as well, from one language to another, but in general, from reading anything,
Sure.
like that one, everything one reads, one interprets through one's own mind, and
Absolutely.
and by the process of reference to other outside things, like we wouldn't if if we read the newspaper, we have reference points to know what it's talking about, versus where if we read, I don't know, just interpreting any text requires an outside reference point, right? So we are familiar with the way humans speak, humans write, and what the things that we generally say, and so we're able to generally able to identify the intention of the author. Right? So seems to me that with a divine entity, sorry about the car, with a divine author, we have no reference point. So I don't see that it would matter what language it was written in, that we would have no idea what it was saying anyway. Or we would have no way to have confidence that we were correct.
That's a good point, but it's still, I mean, that's a good separate point, but that still has nothing to do. All I was asking was, could he have done it? So everybody went on this totally different rants, and I know why, but the problem remains.
No, you don't, Mark. No, you really don't.
I know, because you're trying to avoid the actual question by answering the question.
If I may for a second, was I asking the question you asked or the more intelligent question you didn't know to ask?
I don't care about what you're talking about. If you're never going to answer my question, I don't know why you
Everybody has answered your question already in a shape or form. You just don't like that it hasn't been a direct yes or no.
Mark, I'm sorry to say this, Mark, but you're starting to, I don't know, kind of pull a little G-man here.
Guys, y'all being too sensitive here.
That's fake.
Well, no, because here's the thing. Like, atheists have answered your question as well, and I've been trying to explain why it is an answer to your question and what we can do to move the conversation forward, and I keep getting cut off before I can explain. And that's been a little annoying.
Am I the only Christian that see that the question wasn't answered? And
I know, that's what I'm saying. Nobody answered my question.
I didn't want to cut anybody off.
Here, let me try. Ask your question again, and I'll give my answer.
It's a very simple question. Now listen.
Let me respond to him.
All right, now listen. This question is a yes or no question. And it involves the languages, all of the known languages that exist now, all of the different ones, and the ones that may exist in the future, and the ones that have existed in the past. All I simply asked was a yes or no question. Could this perfect being inspire people to create a different version of the Bible in every language that has existed and that ever will exist? It is either yes or no, and I am not trolling.
Let me ask a clarifying question.
Okay.
Are you asking, is there at all any possibility that this could happen? Even if it was 0.000 times 100 to 1. If that is a possibility, is that what you're asking?
No. I'm asking if we're talking about the character of God, and if we're talking about the Christian version of God, and what we know about his. I'm just asking you about what we know about his powers or whatever. Could he have inspired, or could he have led to perfect, definitive? Could he have led to a version of the Bible in every language? I don't even know why this is complicated. Could there be a Bible in every language if God wanted it? It's either yes or no.
There pretty much is right now.
No, I didn't say pretty much. And then listen.
Okay. What languages right now today? In what languages is the Bible not printed currently?
Whoa,
I never said that. So you're remember.
Wait. Hold on. Let Alexia answer.
He's asking for a clarification. I said I didn't ask could we translate them. I asked could God have initially inspired every single language that has existed and ever existed. So when you ask which language, if it's a language, I'm talking about that. So there's no need for any clarification. And I'm not talking about.
You're asking is it possible?
Yeah, and I'm not talking about.
Yes, it is possible.
You said yes, it is possible?
Yes.
I don't think
exactly. Now you see how easy that was?
I don't think it is.
No, it's absolutely not possible, because what you're talking about is him inspiring people to write a book in a language in which they do not know. That is not possible. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So can I reply to that?
Wait. Let me clarify my response.
Okay, but I want to reply to him after you. I'm sorry that I'm kind of hype.
My response is, according to the definition that Christians give to their God, that he's all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good, all-just, etc., etc. anything is technically possible.
No.
With that being.
No.
Now, is it likely?
No.
That's a huge misunderstanding of what those words mean.
Everything that's logically possible, actually, is what they go with. And what I just said is that I don't think it's logically possible for him to inspire somebody to write a book in a language that doesn't exist yet.
Really?
Let me finish my response, please.
All right.
Now, do I think it's likely? No. As I said, the chance of... I don't even believe a God exists. But the chance that it actually would have happened that way is so slim, it's not even remotely needed to really be discussed.
Okay, well...
But is it possible? Yes. Anything is possible with the definition that is currently given by Christians for their God.
Oh my goodness.
I don't see how it's unlikely, seeing as though he's all-powerful. So how can you say something is unlikely that is possible, but say it's unlikely?
Because I don't believe that event. I don't believe that event
exists.
I don't believe he exists either. I don't believe that Goku exists, but I think it's possible for him to shoot a spirit bomb. What are you talking about?
I don't believe that the event in which you're describing, the thing in which you're describing is him being able to do, that he should be able to do, is something that's logically possible. That's the thing.
Yeah, okay, such as teach someone a new language.
Mark,
no, because that's not exactly what's going on here, though, is it?
That was my question.
No, because what you're saying is not only does he need to instill into them the knowledge of all the languages that either do exist, will exist, or will ever exist, as well as have perfect knowledge of everything that is supposed to go in there. Now, this is a thing that regularly comes up in every debate with, like, presuppositionalists, for instance, who like to presume that God can instill perfect knowledge in people. And the usual response is, no, he can't, because we're not capable of that. Because we are fundamentally...
Really, Dylan?
What?
And a language that is not spoken lacks context.
There's no possible way.
Guys, can I say something? Y'all making this sound so complicated. All he asks is if God can make...
When you're discussing the matters of theology, of course it's going to seem complicated. That's
Okay.
systematic theology.
Making it more complicated than it needs to. So, hold on. Can I answer the question though? Like,
please, Justin.
Go for it. Go for it.
All it takes, it's a simple task for God. If he has one translation and at one point everyone knows English or Spanish. Let's say that English or Spanish. And he has one or two people that knows the language well, knows what's the best thing, and God knows all the languages, so he inspires him to write what he needs to write in those two languages. Let's say the languages morph into 5 languages, 10 languages, or whatever. Each generation, there's going to be a person who knows one or two of those languages, and if he's lacking in some kind of understanding, God can still give him understanding of those 2 languages. It's if we can imagine it for the Matrix, where someone uploads a bunch of knowledge into his brain, like, it's so much more possible for God, especially because
exactly. That's all I'm saying. Exactly.
But wait, no. What he said just ultimately goes back to what I said initially.
I'm saying both and. There's no need to just put God in a box where some person has to be educated in Latin to actually give a perfect translation. God can literally upload all the knowledge that he needs to know, whether it's for the past.
I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, but he plays on what's able to be done, on how the message is to be understood, to be relayed, and what its purpose.
There's another problem here too, which is the problem of the fact that everybody is different and interprets things differently. So, like, a perfect Bible, for instance, for one person can be an incoherent Bible to another person just because of the way their minds work differently.
Yeah, correct.
That's fine, but that doesn't address my thing. All I was asking is, could he had made a Bible in different languages? I understand that, you can arise all these other things, but if the answer is yes, just say yes, he could have, and then we move on to the other things.
He's made a translation in all these different languages.
Okay,
yes.
can I just offer my 2 cents?
Let's get the physicist on this one. Go on.
All right. Now, do you guys consider the Septuagint as an inspired text, or is it just a translation?
I'd call it as inspired text personally, but I'm an atheist.
You'd call it what?
I'd call it an inspired text, but I'm the atheist in the room, or one of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
what about Christians in this path?
Well, I would consider it. I would consider it inspired as well. And when it comes to thoughts and ideas, I believe that the Bible is inspired or is perfect. When it comes to wording and so on and arrangements, I don't think that's perfect. I believe that it carries the idea,
Okay,
and that's it.
let me clarify what I mean by inspired. Inspired in the sense of on par with the original written manuscript of a prophet. So obviously we would
I would
agree.
say that I'd say it's a collection of legends that has been translated into the dominant language of the time.
Well, no.
Speak. Go get your
What
ice
I mean
cream.
is,
I know, it's the ice cream truck.
Sorry. I didn't mean to distract.
And now I'm hungry.
Go ahead, General.
What I mean is, say Matthew's original manuscript, right? And a Christian would say, like, it's part of Christian theology to say that the original would be the quote-unquote infallible, inspired, inerrant book of Matthew, but any form of copies after that, or even translations after that, would be basically just that, translations.
Diluted,
Now, would it make sense for me to say?
I think this
would
is
it make sense for me to say that the copies and the translations after are on par with the original manuscript?
I think what's being proposed here is that when they do get translated, like officially, that they're supposed to also be inspired by God.
Yeah, I think what's going on is verbal inspiration versus thought inspiration. The idea that the very letters that were originally written were something that was unchangeable, that was what God said exactly, verbatim, and there's no shift. You cannot actually change the wording. So if there's a comma and then another translation doesn't have a comma, then therefore that's corrupted translation because it's not as God said it. That's not biblical.
Exactly.
Okay, so now you guys know
what
what I'm
I'm in
doing.
big trouble.
Exactly.
Wait. I haven't finished my point. Now that you guys see what I'm getting at, in Hebrews 8, so the author of Hebrews considered that the original reading of Jeremiah 31 was the Septuagint reading, not the Hebrew reading, because the Septuagint reading has a slight corruption from the Hebrew. And now, how do you deal with that?
It's not. You wouldn't call it a corruption unless you suppose that God wrote it Himself as it was originally written. That's like
No, there is a spelling error. There is a letter difference.
Well, yeah, if
I have
there's
a
a letter
question about that because I know Han.
It's in Hebrews
General
8.
Han. Yeah, General Han knows both Hebrew and Greek, I believe, and they're very, very different languages. From what I gather, I'm not a scholar in either, but the very sentence structure would be very. It would take a lot of skill to get the nuance of one of them into the other, since both the cultures and the actual linguistic structures are so different, and that's yet another wrinkle. And I don't know whether that was related to your point, but I wanted to interrupt again.
Well, it's related to the point that was made that could God inspire or give an accurate, perfect Bible in all languages? And here's an example where, from the Paleo Hebrew to the Koine Greek, you have a complete contradiction of terms, and yet the author in the first century of Hebrew is writing in Greek, and obviously he has the choice between the Hebrew manuscript and the Septuagint to choose from. He decides that the Septuagint is the inspired text, not the Hebrew text, which, by the way, Jesus was well aware of, and he used the Hebrew text.
Yeah.
So what? Why is that contradiction?
Yeah, but that goes to my
I have
point.
a theory on that. That was the language that he grew up speaking because it was dominant at the time he was writing it.
I think you guys are assuming too much about, like, if someone decides to write, Jesus loves you, this I know, and then another one says, Jesus loves you because the Bible told me so, or whatever. And just because there's a difference here and there, they're either favoring one translation over or the other, or assuming this translation is more inspired. No, it could be incidental because they want to emphasize a certain idea or a certain nuance. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're discrediting one translation over the other. It just means that one translation may pull out a different emphasis, and it could mean that it means the same thing, just emphasizing something different.
So you're basically saying as long as the core meaning remains, what's the difference ultimately?
Exactly. If I say go to the store in English and then said go to the store in Spanish, it's the same thing. Now, the word baño or whatever may have a whole different history of meaning or baggage to it, but nevertheless, it means the same thing if in the context of going to the bathroom. So we
Seems to
assume
me
all
it
this
would be
stuff.
very difficult to know that it said the same thing because the same syllables can mean different things from language to language. It doesn't, especially with I don't know,
But you
same
do that.
syllables.
I understand that, but that only makes sense when you find certain statements in a vacuum. Like it's alone with no context pointing to what it's most likely talking about. So if I said go to the bathroom and and the context is I'm a secret agent, I'm a spy, then you can say okay, well this could be kind of suggestive of some type of code. But if we're normal people and I just told you I have to pee, I have to use the bathroom, whatever, then it's obviously talking about the literal bathroom. The
Now
context makes it clear.
this is interesting because you just made the argument that I made earlier as to why no one who believes this is a divinely inspired book should have any confidence whatsoever about what it actually means. You just made the exact point I made.
I don't understand how I
Because
have.
we have no context to
Oh,
which
we
to
have.
refer with a divine source, with divine intention. We have no reference point. We have no. This is a singular entity, correct?
Here's
No,
In
we have
in
lots of
this
context.
story.
Like, for example, it says
No, no,
"Thou
no.
kill."
The person who is taking this divine inspiration from this entity, there is absolutely no reference point.
There's lots of reference points. Like, for example, if you have "Thou shalt not kill," we don't have to be like confused about what it really means and say,
How
"Oh,
do we
this is
know it wasn't code? How do we know
what,"
that's not code? How did he
because
know it wasn't code?
because the suggestive language, one, Moses knows what killing is. He actually killed someone. Two, God, like in Genesis, talks about how he was angry or he didn't like
You
the
just
fact.
talked about the spy. You just talked about the spy, though, where
But
a note that said, go get some bread, actually meant the U-boats are off the Atlantic, off Chesapeake Bay.
yeah, and if that's the story, if we
Meant something
find
totally different in a context.
yeah, in the context,
But there's no context. We don't know the context.
I'm
We don't
explaining
know.
how you know the context because you see the context is they're going from Egypt and they're coming from different place. They're not a nation of spies. It's not like they're all James
I think
Bond.
you missed the point. I hope somebody got it.
If I can step in here for one really brief moment, it's along the lines of.
And then I want to say
Oh,
something
please.
after Shadow.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll get back to it.
Okay. Well, I just want to point out, this is in the side chat, that I think you guys maybe just got my point, but let me just clarify. Going back to Hebrews 8 and Jeremiah 31. So in the side chat, I've highlighted from the exegetical commentary the key point that I'm making. So the commentator says, most significantly, in verse 32 of Jeremiah 31, the Masoretic text reads, although I was a husband, the qual perfect of Baal, to them, whereas the Septuagint has, and I did not care for them. And he says, it seems that the translator of the Septuagint read Baal as Gaal. So that's now that's a major like error, basically.
Okay.
And so the Hebrew author takes the Septuagint reading, which he should not have, because the Septuagint is a translation. The Septuagint is not the final authority. So why did the Hebrew author take the Septuagint?
Am I the only one that finds it
inspired?
ironic that if Christ was killed in the year 2015, that Christians would be wearing a electric chair around their neck rather than a cross?
Yeah, but that changes the subject.
Yeah. Just.
Okay. If I can go back to what Unspeakable
Here,
was saying.
my roommate's
earlier.
going to join the chat. I'm going to give the headphone to him.
Well, if I can go back to what Unspeakable was trying to convey earlier, or at least what I believe Unspeakable was trying to convey, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, the notion is more so if some perfect divine entity tried to communicate to an imperfect human, what makes you think that the human could get it right? Because, I mean, how could we even really understand and relate to something that is that different to what we are by nature and what have you? Is that essentially where you're going, Unspeakable? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to some arguments that are made in deconstruction and like linguistic type stuff. And
yeah.
This language theory. Yeah.
Well, the way I see it is it's just like calculus. You know, I have a child, and let's say I'm a brain magician. I know how to just do any kind of math problem in the world. Now, a child, I know that the child may not understand calculus and may not understand, algebra and all these different things. But since I'm smart enough to know that he can at least comprehend 1 plus 1. So the same thing for God. We should give him the benefit of the doubt that he's not going to just ignorantly throw out information that we will never understand. He will give us what we can understand and start from there, and not assume that we cannot understand it because he's God.
No,
the
they were
kids
assuming
can
that they
understand
could understand it, but I think that was a faulty assumption. And or if they did, I'm not even going to give you that. But it depends whether you see the text as God wrote it word for word, or whether you see it as God inspired these men to convey a message. Because in one instance, the burden's on you, and the other one, you shift the burden back to them.
Some classical Christian theologians would posit that it was penned by the Holy Spirit in that way.
It depends on the theologian. There's a lot of disagreement on that.
Yeah, like I said, some theologians.
Which is why I said depends on what you think what you think the story is there.
Yeah, I believe that it's just like a dream. Like you may have all these feelings, these like kind of hard to touch on feelings, but you can be accurate about what you felt. And it may not your feelings didn't say, "Oh, scared," "oh, angry." It didn't like literally write words. You write that, and because you were inspired by that, and you just describe it. So God can actually imbue a person with all these feelings, these weird kind of apparitions and visions and things that are not necessarily pen or a pen to paper, but they're like from, I guess, spirit or dimension to mind, and then eventually from my mind to
there's a lot more detail there. If it really does depend on whether you think it was. Never mind. I'm talking way too much. This isn't my hangout.
That's okay. I'd rather listen to you than half the folks in here. You have a nicer voice.
What about me? Am I one of those people?
He said, "What about me?"
I said she has a nicer voice. Deal with it.
Haha.
Forget you. I'm Slick James, Rich.
Slick James. Huh? I guess you are.
Yes, I am.
But I think, but if I can say something, my hunch is that a lot of people are atheists not because of God, but because of people's like low view of God and how like we think of him as so weak at actually being able to communicate an idea. So like if God said, like literally said, "Hey, I love you guys. I don't want you to do these things. Stop killing." We have this idea that cannot be clearly translated. Now, if you actually submit to the idea that can be translated, then what idea that cannot be translated? Why are we like assuming everything is confusing?
I'm talking about text. I'm not talking about any deity at all. I'm talking about I'm talking about straight interpretation of this text, which seems to be very, very important to this tradition. And I mean, I'm quite familiar with the feeling of inspiration and the feeling. So I'm not judging that. I just wouldn't necessarily think it's appropriate to think one has the right interpretation of that feeling.
Yeah,
I would have to strongly disagree with something Justin just said. I don't think most people are atheists because Christians or deists in general posit a low view of God. I think most a lot of the atheists I've met are atheists due to things like the problem of evil or, logical.
No. Come on. Nobody comes to their theological perspective based off of classical formal logical arguments. It never happens. That's something that you just come across after you've already come to that conclusion.
Yes, but it would still exist before the fact. Like a lot of people would say, well, if God is all loving and all powerful, how come kids are starving in Africa? They may not call it.
I'm going to chime in with a slightly different slant on this. Now, if you go through the very deconversion stories that you'll find online, a lot of these people get to the point that they've looked way beyond the text, and they're looking at this notion of the divine, this God character, and they're thinking, you know what, this God character is, if it does exist, must be so much better than any of these books that anyone's written about it. And then they go with this idea to the very believers and kind of get shat on. And it's at that point that they're like, okay, to heck with all of you.
Sometimes it does happen. Like, I remember hearing one story about a guy who was just he basically deconverted within a day because he was, like, scared mostly of hell. And he just kind of came up with the idea, like, if there is a truly just God, he's not going to send me to eternal torment for not believing in him. So I'm going to do it right now and see what happens. And he did it, and nothing happened. And he goes, you know what? Fine. Then, I guess the God that I've been told about probably doesn't exist. I'm not smited. I'm fine. Which, not the best reason. I don't think that a lot of people really come to their theological conclusions initially based off of good reasons. Like, it almost never seems to happen. Like, I asked this question to a lot of Christian friends of mine. I say, well, what argument exactly convinces you that a God exists? And they'll come across, they'll try to use like Kalam or the moral argument or whatever, but then I'll ask them, okay, what initially got you to believe God exists? And by and large, most of the answers is, well, I just always have. I mean, because that's the fact.
I would like to then say that I was actually raised in a pretty irreligious household, and I became Mennonite of my own independence. I would like to say that.
If I can put a little bookend on my comment, what I was kind of alluding to is that I feel that a lot of atheists come to their atheism in the end, not because they have a low opinion of God, but because they have a higher opinion of what a God should be.
Potentially, I would say that that's definitely true for some people. I myself, I just started becoming disillusioned with the whole notion of like religion initially. I sort of went through a gradual process when I was getting older. I was raised Baptist, and I just didn't really accept it. I had questions very early on that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I was reading like science books early on, and the people who were raising me, they were all like young Earth creationists. So I'm like, well, and so they're telling me stuff like, well, on this day God created this, and this day God created this, and I'm like, when did He create the dinosaurs? And they're like, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about it. Forget about it.
I really dislike that about young Earth creationists. They make it an all or nothing proposition.
Yeah.
What's also interesting, here's the evolution. They went from the dinosaurs were placed there to test out
headphones that are blocking my ears. Okay. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so I'm Alex's roommate. I have joined her for one hangout once before. Honestly, from what I hear, now let me tell you a little bit about me.
Okay.
When I was born, I was born under some very harsh conditions. You see, my biological mom was 13 when she had me, so I was a rape baby. And when I had been adopted into another family, I had been raised as a Christian, a Catholic to be exact. And at a very young age, I had this concept that in order to understand religion in general, you kind of had to get a concept of each individual religion that makes up the vast majority. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a Christian, I'm not an atheist, I'm a deist. I believe that there's the possibility a God could exist. As to who it is or what constitutes what makes them a God, as you have said, it's kind of difficult. And I had this idea. Is anybody familiar with the show Supernatural?
I've seen only a little bit.
All right. So for those who have watched the majority, are you familiar with the? I forget the name of the actual creature, but it's a creature that only exists because of the fact that people believe in it.
That's a scary idea. That reminds me of Boogeyman 3.
Well, yeah, that's the general idea.
The classic notion of something like that comes out of Hindu tradition and is referred to as a tulpa.
That's right, tulpa. So the reason I bring that up is because, like I said, I believe there is a possibility a God could exist. However, I cannot rule out the notion that if it does exist, what if a God only exists because people believe in it? I mean, if the Greek gods did actually exist, now you can't prove that they now people don't believe they exist, so therefore they don't exist. I mean, honestly, I know it's kind of out there.
It kind of adds a.
Nobody is around to hear it. Doesn't make a sound. It sounds a lot like that.
Well, the thing is,
it kind of sounds like a platonic thing too. It's very idealist, and I mean, it would exist as a concept until there was no one to have the concept. So it doesn't sound.
In terms of Hindu tradition, though, there's a little bit of a problem with that in that the students were encouraged to create these tulpas as if they were gods. But if the student didn't figure out that it was imaginary, they were considered a failure.
This is a good point.
Yes, sir.
But the thing is that regardless of how the Hindus deal with it in that regard, I'm saying if the concept is there, what if God only exists because we believe he exists? Which is why there's so many ideas of whose God is the real God, which God is, is just a fabrication. We have all these facts that we present to prove that this specific God exists, such as the Christians using the statement in the Bible, our God is the only God that literally states in the Holy Bible that he is the one true living God and that no other God.
That shit is not holy.
Then that he's the only God.
Alexia, that's actually wrong. Alexia, that's actually wrong. The Old Testament is actually in approval of the existence of a plenitude of a number of gods. It's just that Yahweh is the only unique one.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, he's the one who he got anyway. His portion from El Elyon was the tribe of Israel, if I recall. Yahweh's portion.
Honestly,
when they divvied out the tribes.
I don't think that it's ludicrous to believe that there's a God. Honestly, even if one doesn't exist, the simple fact that it helps that a lot of people I feel use religion as a way to put their problems on something bigger than themselves.
Well, this is like a bit of context. Like I'm far beyond my more militant atheistic days. Those years are behind me. And honestly, like some of my best friends are Christians. I don't really have a whole lot of a problem with anybody believing in a God. I personally don't. And there's a decent amount of reasons as to why that's the case. I don't think that I have any sort of like rock solid logical argument against a God's existence. I have heard a few that I feel are pretty good, but there are answers to them, so it's not like foolproof. It doesn't seem absurd to me at all for somebody to believe in a God, and I've been an atheist for 8 years now with absolutely no sort of indication that I'm even kind of converting. I'm just entirely unconvinced. But if somebody believes, then I'm not going to fault them because, by and large, a lot of people believe a lot of things, sometimes unjustifiably, sometimes being an atheist, for instance, does not make you a smarter person. Look on YouTube. There's plenty of evidence for that.
Oh yeah, there are plenty of atheistic videos that my roommate watches that prove that not all atheists are intelligent.
I would say a decent amount of them aren't, or at the very least the loud ones that you see and hear all the time.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I believe that maybe they started with the correct idea, the correct notion, but from what I've seen, because I've literally watched these specific people from their first video to about the video that I've seen my roommate watching, and it seems like they've gone from having the right idea to becoming too big for their britches, which honestly happens a lot in general.
I think the proportion of intelligent theists and intelligent atheists are probably fairly equivalent.
Exactly. I mean, you don't have to be an atheist to be smart, like you said, and you don't have to be you don't have to be a Christian to be. And I'm not saying that all Christians are, but like I think the biggest problem is that through religion, people think that, oh well, if you're not part of my religion, then you're ignorant. It's this whole concept of my opinion is better than your opinion, therefore my opinion is true.
Well, everybody holds the belief that their opinion is the right one, otherwise they would change that.
I don't.
Yeah,
when you say that, you think your opinion not being right is the correct one, is what I'm getting at.
Well, yeah, and if you were logical, most people don't think logically when it comes to opinions. If you do studying, sometimes you'll find that though at the beginning you thought your opinion was right, if you actually stop and listen to what the other person has to say and actually delve into what they're saying, it gives you a better understanding of whose opinion is really the better one.
I'm gonna need to cut it off here. We're still gonna do an off-air portion until I have to leave. Of course, everyone is still invited to stay and continue the discussion. But and hello, look who's gonna join us for the off-air portion. It's Ocean, the guy that comes up with the good yo mama jokes.
Well, if I can redirect for just 1 second, there was one question I wanted to ask right quick of Alexander, actually. Now, when I was growing up and people tried introducing me to the concept of God and religion and this and that, for me there was this weird kind of intuitive wrongness to it. Is that kind of what you're speaking about earlier with your experience?
That I always sort of had suspicion, but the thing is that like a lot of people in my life sort of kept that in check through various ways. Like, for instance, my pastor was like just the sweetest, nicest woman that you could meet. So talking to her, you just didn't want to believe that anything that she said was wrong. So she could keep that suspicion a little bit in check. My sister was big on that because she was a huge, like, fire and brimstone type Christian. It was just like, if you don't believe and if you don't accept this and blah, 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 you're burning forever. You'll be a disgrace to the family. I'll convince mom and dad to disown you, like stuff like that. So, I was very afraid for quite some time of even kind of questioning it, but there was always doubt in my mind. It was just something that was always there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean by that intuitive wrongness. It doesn't matter what they say. You're just kind of like, yeah, this isn't right. I don't know why, but this isn't right.
It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right when I'm scared of just reality. Like, I don't think I should be scared of just existing, and that's what my sister did. And I shouldn't be convinced by somebody just because of how nice they are, which was my deal with my pastor. And once we ended up moving to another county, I didn't deal with that pastor anymore, and we didn't really go to church anymore because there wasn't any churches nearby. I was able to take a breath and think for myself, and I was able to come to the conclusion, I really just don't believe all of this.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thanks.
All right, so we're going to take it off there, and plus in that time, I think it'll be safe for me to show one picture, because I'm not too sure based on what the YouTube... No, it's not porn. Jesus. Whoever keeps thinking these things are porn, get your head out of the gutter. Dang, this is why y'all need Jesus.
We are
Anyways,
okay?
Anyways.
The first thing on our minds.
Yeah, of course.
Especially on the internet.
Of course.
We want the Jesus porn.
Dang it, squirrel, get out!
He brought out the puppets.
It's the rat.
Rat, get out either way. Squirrel, rat, I don't give a darn.
They're all fucking rats.
I can't keep...
Is the wolf still in business?
Anyways.
What?
The Squolf.
Yeah, he's still here. He was out earlier.
So, I'm going to make an announcement. September 18th is when it is announced that me and G-Man are having round 2 of our debate series, where we will now cover the topic of, is the King James Bible the best translation?
Did you say September?
No.
Yeah, September.
Shit, son. Putting you on the wait list.
Yeah,
well,
make sure to
I told him that I'm done with debates for a while, so we both agree on the date.
Okay, fair
enough. I'm gonna say this:
September is
like you have a distinct advantage going into every debate that you go in with anybody because that avatar is just so much cuter than a normal person can possibly be.
So kawaii.
So kawaii.
But in all seriousness, yes, we're still trying to look for a moderator. We're probably going to get Tim from Bible Thumping Wingnut, but at this point, we're still looking. So, but yeah, anyway, September 18th is when we're planning it. So, reserve your tickets or HBO free shipping on YouTube. But until then, we're going to take this off to the off-air portion as the usual. Shalom Aleichem, peace be upon you, because I wish that upon you. Good night.